Hey everyone, welcome to Rally Caps, a podcast for the creative entrepreneur building a business for the long haul.
Today we are joined by our friend John Branch, the fourth JBIV. John is a phenomenal wedding and portrait photographer of 6 years based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And like many small business owners in 2020, John's wedding business was pretty hurt by the cancellations, postponements, and all the uncertainty. But that didn't stop him from having a phenomenal year where he focused his efforts on YouTube, amassed just over 50,000 new subscribers, and turned his channel into his primary source of income to support his family. So now he's able to flex on literally everyone as a new Fujifilm ambassador, is a low-key musical genius, and was recently named the most stylish wedding photographer of 2020 by Junebug Weddings.
Is that all correct, John?
We'll leave it all to mystery. Most of that is correct. We'll let you figure out which one is the fake.
Ooh, I like it.
Playing two truths and a lie now. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, you got to start every episode like that now.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's me.
Man.
Hello, welcome.
Really thankful for you to come on, man. I know like we've been internet friends over the past 4 years after meeting each other in real life. Was it 2017? 2018?
Oh my goodness.
At workshop?
I can't even remember. Yeah. Oh man.
It was basically half a decade ago.
Yeah, it was 2017, 16, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And just
Good old workshop.
Yeah, right.
Without the O's.
Yeah.
Workshop.
too hip to quit.
I loved that workshop. It was so cool. I feel like I met so many awesome photographers there, and it really just kind of put the lane of wedding photography really on me and made sense after going to workshop.
Yeah. I can only imagine after having all of the jobs that you've had and we'll obviously dive into. It's kind of interesting hearing that perspective from you to kind of change that direction into like what you're currently doing. But yeah, we'll definitely dive into all those different dozen things you've done with your career so far.
You're kind of killing it on all fronts, and you're doing so much cool stuff right now. But to rewind a little bit, I actually didn't know this about you until recently, but you worked at Squarespace for like 5 years. That's incredible. What made you want to work for Squarespace in the first place?
So let's see. At the time, I was always pretty big on tech in general. And I don't know, Squarespace was such a cool company. I'm really attracted to companies that are super aesthetic and everything about them has to look good. And that came from when I used to work at Apple. And I had a friend actually who quit Apple, and she got in contact with me and was like, hey, Squarespace is happening. You need to get in here. And yeah, I was just like, this is great. This is awesome. Aesthetic is my thing. And yeah, kind of started out as like entry-level customer service and then moved up to a manager. And it's a good 5 years. Learned a lot. I started my wedding photography business while I was at Squarespace as well. So Squarespace actually sustained me before I was able to go full-time.
Okay, cool. And now Squarespace is a sponsor on your channel.
I know.
So it's like all full circle. Yeah.
It's so cool. I like hit up some of my old friends who are still at Squarespace.
Okay.
And I'm like, look at there now. But now I'm sponsored.
Is that how you?
They're still giving me money.
Did you reach out that way? Like, is that how you got your foot in the door? Because Chris Chu, he like joked about. He's like, I'm waiting for the Squarespace skates to open, like to have the sponsorship on the channel. Everyone's always asking, like, how do you get those going?
It's like the grail.
Yeah, I don't think I reached out. I think they ended up contacting me at some point.
Makes sense.
And it was perfect too, because I had wanted to do a more in-depth video on Squarespace and building a site. And I had just been putting it off. And then finally they were like, hey. And I was like, oh, hi, friends.
Yeah.
I know you.
Nice.
Unfortunately, no one who I used to work with while I was there in marketing was still there. So I didn't know anyone directly, because that would have been great if I would have been like, oh, hi. And they were like, what? But yeah, they reached out to me, and I kind of plugged that I used to work there, but I don't think they really cared.
Yeah. With that big of a company. Yeah. Well, you dove deep into your How Much YouTube Paid Me in 2020 video, which I'm a big fan of. I love doing those. I love seeing those. I love the transparency. It's like, honestly, a lot of YouTube for me now feels very redundant, and the things I gravitate most to are just people being as transparent as possible, improving the transparency with talking about things that are pretty uncomfortable to talk about, like money.
Yeah.
So could you just talk a bit about your motivations of branching, dad joked, into YouTube?
Yeah. So YouTube for me, it was kind of a long time coming type of thing. I actually had a YouTube channel back in 2006, 2007. So like the golden years of YouTube.
Yeah.
But I messed up because I didn't take it seriously. It was a music production channel, so I focused on like making hip hop beats and sampling. My biggest twist on it was Ableton Live at the time was kind of newer, and everyone usually used it for only live stuff. But I was like, hey, you can sample hip hop tracks and make beats on Ableton Live. So I curved my little niche, kind of put it in there. So I was kind of doing that, not seriously, kind of made a little bit of money. It was like I'd get a check every couple months. So then I stopped. And then I'm gonna tell you the whole story. I'm gonna go on forever.
Please.
So when I was at Squarespace, my wife got pregnant with our first child, and I was like, okay, yeah, we're pregnant.
I know that
She
feeling.
was like, oh, I want to stay home with the kids. And I was like, okay, cool. That's great. Well, I need another job. And she was like, no, you need to start a business. And I was like, oh. So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
when I started taking photography seriously. And I was like, okay, so I'm decent at photography. I could probably make money with it. And while going into that, it was also like, hey, you still have YouTube. And actually, the real reason I got into YouTube is because I was trying to get hired at Honeybook because I had this idea of making videos for companies for their their knowledge bases, because I was doing that at Squarespace a little bit as well on their video team. So if you go back to my first videos, you'll see it's very corporate-y, like, here's Honeybook.
Yeah.
Let's learn how to use Honeybook.
Yeah.
And after that, didn't go anywhere. And I actually interviewed with them 2 or 3 times, and I never got hired, which is funny because they loved me. And when I went and visited them, 2019, I visited them, and they were like, "What? You applied?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Sorry about it.
Yeah.
You missed
But
that
it
one.
was actually good they didn't hire me, because that's what got me to go into YouTube. And then I was like, you know what? I'll just do it, whatever. And then I had a video blow up, and then I was making money, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll keep doing this, and just kind of rolled from there. So it was natural. I already had YouTube in my blood because I had been doing it in the past.
Yeah. And that video that blew up was it was like a 7 tips for getting into wedding photography, something like that, right? Or was that like a
That
second
was
one you
the
did?
second one. Yeah, the first one was an iPad one.
Oh.
And that's actually something whenever I talk about YouTube and how to do better at YouTube, that was a classic riding the wave, as I like to call it, where new iPads just dropped. I wanted to talk about Lightroom on the iPad. No one else talks about it. So it was like the perfect. That's what got me in the partner program. And then we went from there.
Okay. That makes so much sense. I really appreciate how diligent you are about like finding those niches, but not stretching yourself to just adapt to a trend, because that's something, like you said, like you were already doing that, something you were already interested in. So you found a way to do it very honestly and authentically, but still capitalize on what was going on, which is so cool. You've found like a ton of success, especially in the past year, but it's been about 2 years now where you've been really hitting it hard. And recently you've brought on some pretty big sponsors to the channel. We mentioned Squarespace as one and Skillshare as another, which is incredible. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
And with that, like, what kind of freedom does that give you as a creative entrepreneur to have big brands like that back the things that you're doing?
I would say it's kind of double. You get freedoms and you also get some stuff kind of taken away. Because the creative side of it kind of changes just a little bit, whereas you have to work in association with them sometimes. So you can't just be like, I'm gonna make whatever. So it does change that creative process, but also it gives you more clout so that when you do more videos or you reach out to companies, it's a little bit easier. Recently, you may have seen, like, I did a video on an ultra wide monitor that I have, and that was something that I reached out for, which I've only reached out like twice and actually had it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, it was a lot easier now to be like, hey, I've been sponsored by Boom Boom Boom, and I've done reviews on La La La, and there it is. Rather than just being like, hey guys, so I kind of do YouTube, and and then they're like, nah, no. So it was nice for once to be able to come out the gate with all these numbers. I was like, here's my 2020, and I gained like 50K subs and this, that, and other, and then they were just like, yes, where do we send it? And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing.
It almost feels like the content creator space, your portfolio almost is your suite of like analytics and sponsors, and that could be good and bad for sure, because it makes you start to care about those things more than you should sometimes. I feel that for sure. I feel like there's so many correlations to your growth and my growth and experiencing like all of these things at the same time. But yeah, I totally know what you mean about it doesn't change my creativity or what I want to make, but that lingering thought in the head of like, okay, this still needs to be approved by the sponsor before it goes live. And there's a part of you that's like, I'm really, really thankful, of course, that I'm getting paid to do this. But there's that other part where it's just like, I would also love to just make everything by myself and, still be my own boss. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think the beauty of that is like, you can do that at any time outside of your sponsored videos. You can do whatever the heck you want whenever it's not sponsored. So, yeah.
Exactly.
But
it honestly, it gets a little stressful sometimes too, just having so many sponsors. I think I might have taken on too many too quickly, because then it's like, it goes from, okay, I want to do a video a week, and if I lapse, whatever, it's fine, to like, oh, I have at least one sponsorship for this person a month, and two for them, and one for that.
Yeah.
Like, I have to make videos now.
Have you found yourself, because I'm literally like today pitching a long-term contract to a sponsor for the channel. Have you done any of that, or like, what does that look like? What does that structure look like for you with sponsors? And obviously I know there's like NDAs and stuff, so I don't want to like encroach on any of that, but whatever you're, willing to share in that structure.
Yeah, definitely. I actually haven't done too much reaching out to sponsors yet. That was actually one of my 2021 goals. I have so far been reaching out for products. That's been because those are very straightforward, where it's like, hey, I want to review your product. You get the product, that is the payment, and then it's fine. Half the time they don't even do contracts,
right?
Which is scary.
I know.
Really, if you think about marketing, it's really it's a win for the businesses, because back in the day, they had to spend so much money to go to like a marketing firm to make a commercial, to get the audio mix, to get the video. Now they can just go find some rando and be like, hey, you want our product?
Yep.
Yeah. And they just mark it off on their sheets. Oh, that was only like $900, whatever.
Right.
It was like they break that much product half the time delivering it. So like, I'm sure.
It's
but
so
yeah,
much
that's
cheaper.
my biggest goal, is to reach out to sponsors.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that the more and more I see success with specific sponsors, whether it's we're looking at analytics and seeing conversion rates and seeing like which sponsors make more sense for my audience, those are the ones I'm starting to go, okay, it'd be really beneficial for both of us to figure out some sort of long-term agreement where, I'm making 1 or 2 sponsor videos for you per month, so that I don't have to like worry or think about different sponsors coming in and having 3 in one month, but then none the next, and having that some sort of consistency, where that's similar to how I feel with Patreon. It's like, if I can lock something like that in, then I'm going to be much more prone to outsource a lot more. Just be like, hey, can you edit this many videos per month? Or, hey, can you, help with my Patreon upload structure? So, yeah.
Yep. That is. And see, that's the goal too. I think a lot of people get into YouTube and they don't think about the business side, but that's very much more a business mindset, which is where I'm trying to get at as well. Because even like I batch recorded like 4 or 5 videos the other day and have edited none of them.
Yeah, like you still recorded.
So I'm like, 5. I need an editor.
Dude, that's so impressive that you got 4 or 5 done in one sitting. That's incredible.
I need your discipline so badly. Well, I was just...
That's like once in every 3 months.
Sure.
I just happened to do it.
I was talking to Daniel Inskeep last night. he's half of Mango Street. He was one of our first, him and Rachel were one of our first episodes, but they've been struggling a lot recently with balancing because they have 3 different channels right now. And he's like, man, it's so stressful to like, we're not weekly anymore on Mango Street. It's just too hard to do all that. So they're finally hiring an editor, and he's talking about how the perfection can be so crippling in a YouTube space, like in an online content business. Having that perfection is just like, that will cripple you. And so getting things to 80 or 90% is what can like keep you going. I thought that was super profound to hear. You obviously shoot weddings, and as all of us wedding photographers and filmmakers in 2020 experienced, like that just didn't happen for like a whole year. And so you're still shooting them. Yes. You're still in it. What do you see? I know this is like the age old question, but do you see yourself pivoting out of it? Do you see yourself staying in it, educating in it? What are next steps?
Oh yeah, that is the question. So I've been kind of thinking about that, especially after YouTube last year, because YouTube last year proved like, hey, you can make enough to sustain because you made like nothing in photography. So from that, I've kind of leaned into, I'm probably still going to do weddings for a couple of years at least. And just scale it back. So even after last year, I raised my prices, and I'm planning on only taking 10 weddings. I've been just taking them as they come for now. I like to serve my couples, and I can't remember what video it is you did. It was an older one where you really just went into like almost like the purpose of it. So good. And the ending of the video, it just had like music and that's how I approach weddings as well. Like, this is about the people having a special day that will live on throughout their family. So this year, especially after last year, I've just been kind of taking them as they come, and, you know, leaving space for myself and my family as well. But I would love to get to a point where I'm taking like 5 to 10, if even, and then raise my prices to a place that's reasonable for the couples, but also reasonable for me to do 5 or 10, and kind of go from there. Keep leaning on the educating, leaning on YouTube, and just kind of see where I'm a very roll with the punches kind of guy.
Yeah. That's so interesting to see how what was your main business in wedding photography could ultimately almost end up being like your side hustle again, as your side hustle of YouTube grew to a point where now that could be maybe the main moneymaker. And then it's just kind of cool to see how like those kind of shift a little bit. And then, like you said, you can maybe put more time and attention into each of those couples that you're able to serve and work with. And that's just a cool like dichotomy to see as it like progresses forward.
Yeah, definitely. Also too, like being able to spend more time with the couples, I think is huge, because I think it was 2019 or 2018 when I had 40 weddings.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I just remember being like, people email me and I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Ooh, where? You show up to the wedding. Oh yeah. It's like the worst feeling.
It is. Yeah. It's just not possible with that many people. But yeah, it's all in balance, you know, and like some people dedicate all of their time to 40 couples because they're not running a YouTube channel or they don't have a side hustle, and they're like able to, but even getting up into those numbers, doing it exclusively is still like, that's difficult. And yeah, I don't want this conversation to ever be one that's like discouraging to anyone who's like passionately pursuing wedding photography or wedding filmmaking, because there are people who have done it for 2-3 decades and are still happy doing it. But yeah, I just find it super interesting to hear everybody's perspective on what they want to keep doing. Like for me, it makes a lot of sense for me to continue doing it in the same like limited capacity, because I would still love to be able to be inspiring people on the educational side of showing them BTS of me still shooting weddings and doing that thing, and almost taking an approach of, and I don't know if it's sustainable over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, but even just taking a mentality of like, it's not uncool to shoot weddings. Like I still think it's a very cool and amazing career. And I think a lot of people need to be self-aware and recognizing that not everybody can have a YouTube channel and a successful one that pays them money. And like that is a virtuous and amazing job and career for someone to have for a very long period of time. So I think it's cool to balance that, because I don't want anybody listening to feel discouraged and be like, oh, well, then I'm going to need to pivot out of weddings, in 5 years, because, guest on rally caps do it. So I feel like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I wholeheartedly agree with that too, because I feel like I've almost seen that sentiment kind of rolling through the wedding industry, at least for like all of us cool kid wedding photographers, as I like to call us. But like everyone's just like, so when are you pivoting? When are you moving out of weddings? Like, why? Like,
I know.
I get they can be a little rough on your body, but they're not that bad. And if you kind of focus into what specifically you want to do, again, at the end of the day, for me, it's about the couples. And I really enjoy weddings. I actually, half of my story with weddings, which I tell a lot of my couples. So I'm the eldest son of the eldest son. So I was like the first kid. So all my cousins, everyone was younger than me.
John
so
Branch
I was
the
like
third.
the ring. Yeah. the other John Branch. I have a fifth too. So I'm making a dynasty of John Branches.
Dude, JB5?
Oh my gosh. That is amazing.
I'm going to instill in him and be like, you have to have a six. I want to see a six within my lifetime.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
But because I was the eldest of the eldest, I was the ring bearer in like everybody's weddings. So weddings to me also just are endearing because I grew up in them. Like literally, I was a ring bearer at least 5 times, I'm pretty sure. I even have a picture somewhere where I'm just like in my white tuxedo looking fresh, So yeah, I love weddings. So even the pivoting for me has been more so it just kind of happened that way.
Sure.
At first,
Same.
YouTube was just kind of like, I guess I'll do it.
Yep.
And then now it's like, oh. So now I'm like, okay. Because even like you were saying, the same thing. I'm like, well, I'll back off of weddings, but I still have some. I can focus on my couples. I can use that for YouTube content.
Right.
Like it just makes more sense. It gives me time, and then I can divvy it out that way rather than trying to overload myself with weddings and overload myself with YouTube and be like, I have to take as much as possible. Now I got to figure out where to pivot. Like I just do what you love and live life, I guess.
I
I
want to go off script a little bit here for a second, because I feel like being as well thought out as you are, and like how you're type A, right? Like you're so organized.
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay. I'm interested even kind of on the personal side with like what kind of your 5-10 year plan is. Like what does long-term look like for you? For us, like the past few years is like we bought our condo. I've been very interested in real estate being like a big part of equity in in our total group of assets, and we want to keep the condo as we move into a house. So what does that kind of look like? I think a lot of creative people don't really think about long-term like that, but I'm just so interested, like dad to dad and dad talk.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all that?
That's always first though, I have to tell you, I love having other like dad photographer friends, especially in that same, like we both have 3 kids.
Yeah.
It's very similar. I love, it's always like, yeah. So yes, I think about that kind of stuff all the time. I don't feel like I plan very far in advance because again, I'm a very roll with the punches. However, I do like to have kind of foresight on where I want to go. And then if something changes within that, then I just kind of, so me and my wife, we actually just paid off all of our debt at the end of 2020.
Heck yes.
That was a long time
Amazing.
coming. So we finally did that. So debt's gone.
What kind of debt was it? Student loan?
Yeah, mainly student loan. There was credit card too. So I can't believe I paid off all that stuff in 20. That was the biggest thing for me. We were just like, wow. I had a bunch of business credit card debt, like 30,000. And then we had student loan debt, which we had already been paying since Squarespace. That was, I don't know, like 80,000 or something.
Wow.
But yeah, we finished all that. Now we're saving, and the next kind of move would be a house. And then, yeah, I've been thinking about investing and stuff like that too. I don't know if I want to get into real estate. However, I'm super interested because I'm a risk taker too. I love risk taking. So to me, real estate is basically gambling. It's just like it, but it's like a proper gambling, I guess.
Yeah,
you can
it's
call
like
it.
it's a safe gamble for sure.
Yeah, where you're like, cool, I could buy this house. Maybe we'll buy our first house. We'll live in there, make it all nice, move out somewhere else, keep it as a rental property, go on from there. So I have been thinking about that, been investing in stuff more in stocks and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan for now. My wife wants to have more kids.
Oh yeah, JB 6,
Yeah,
JB 7, JB 12.
It just they all look very much like me too. So people joke that we're making a clone army because they're just like, they all look like you. And I'm like, yeah. Bunch of little John branches running around. But yeah, that's the plan. More kids in a house at some point. That's the main, and that's what we'll do. We'll set goals, and then within the goal, we'll kind of pivot around to what it needs to be.
Have you heard of NFTs?
Bro, what are NFTs? I've kind of heard of it, but I don't understand it.
Steven, yeah. Drop
I mean, I am extremely fungible. I am very fungible. This digital piece of art, super not fungible. That's the extent that I understand it right now.
Okay. So you need me to define it?
No. There's a much better definition. Now, Eric and I have been talking about this a lot recently, and it seems like there's a lot of different directions you could go with it, and I'm still trying to grok a lot of that. Yeah. But the way Eric and I boiled it down to like layman's terms is that for a certain market of creatives and creators and all that, it could almost be like people investing in you as if they were buying stock in you as a creator. Wow. Kind of.
It's crazy.
Depending on how you structure it. Like there's a lot of different ways you could go with it.
I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, anybody listening, Colin and Samir, they made a video like exclusively about it a week or two ago. At the time of this podcast launch, it'll be like a month or a month and a half old. If you just go back, I think the thumbnail is like Logan Paul holding a jar, then it's like free air or something. Air. Yeah. It's like a 25-minute video, but they break it all down. NFT stands for non-fungible token, which is like it's a unique piece of art or something online that can be purchased as a digital asset, but through blockchain and through, what cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and Ethereum run on, you can solidify that you've purchased this digital asset and that nobody else can own it unless you sell it. Yep. And so what I've kind of recognized in this space is that there are really two camps of people using it. It's one's digital artists that are making digital pieces and then selling them. And I think most of them are selling them for Ethereum, the cryptocurrency Ethereum, and which is always fluctuating as well. But so that's one camp, and those things are going for, thousands or tens of thousands, hundreds, even millions, which is nuts. But people are buying them as investments to resell later as art pieces, basically. And so there's that whole crazy side, which I think Daniel just made a video about it too, where he thinks, that might be a bubble that bursts where people are way overpaying for these things and they're not going to be able to resell them eventually. Mm-hmm. But they're even doing like NBA, like videos of guys dunking, and then you can sell that NFT. What's really cool about that, I think what's really cool about that part is you can sign up to have, as the original artist, you can have a commission every time it's resold. So there's that. But then this is what I'm really interested in hearing from you, is this whole other part that Colin and Samir kind of touch on, is like you could basically make your own currency as a creator. And so you could make like the JB4 token or whatever. And
what a cool token that would be too. Oh my gosh.
How many J-Bibs you got?
How does that convert to Shroot bucks?
Tell
me.
It sounds so silly, and like, of course you don't have to name it something like that, but the crazy thing about it is you could make as many as you want. So you could make like 1,000 tokens for your channel, and you could sell them for $10 a piece, like $10 per token. But then the way this whole side of the NFTs work is, so each of those is an individual NFT that you're selling. That could be transferable, but only one person can own one token at a time. And what you could do is you could sell, say, each of them for $10 a piece, And if someone owns 10 tokens, they have access to your online workshop, or they have access to this thing or whatever. And so the tokens are exclusive and hold value for extra content that you make, or a workshop that you put on in real life, or something that you're giving away. You know, you have access to this giveaway if you have 5 or more tokens. And so you can kind of use it as a digital currency for your own brand. And the crazy thing for me is like my mind immediately went to, because everybody on Twitter, and they said this in the video as well, everybody on Twitter says like, oh, I wish I could buy stock in this creator or whatever. And this is potentially a way that creators can like make stock for their own businesses, because out of all the people that own your coins or whatever, you could then have like shareholder meetings, and you could pay dividends to those people who are invested in you as well. And they would want to see your growth too, because if they're invested in your coins, they want to see your channel grow. They're going to watch every video. They're going to like and subscribe and comment and do all those things. My mind has just been like buzzing on this idea, because I'm like, I could see that being the future of this decade with content creators. So I just dropped all that on you, but what do you think? What do you think about that?
That's crazy. I've kind of heard of NFTs but don't understand at all whatsoever. However, creating your own kind of shares would be cool.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like people investing in you. I almost don't even know if I can like fathom how that could.
Right.
It's just so cool.
My mind
to
immediately
think like,
go ahead. Yeah.
Just like someone investing in you, and then your coins like growing, and then more people investing in you because they just see you're doing great. Like take someone like Peter McKinnon. Imagine if he he started had his own coin. You know, like it just would have been crazy. Like, because when he started blowing up, then more people would have tried to invest in it, and then it would have.
And the coins increase in value then too, just like stocks. And my mind starts to immediately go to, okay, well, they actually interviewed somebody who basically runs a business trying to set up these systems for creators. And so it's like, could you create a group of people or a business that provides infrastructure for creators? Or maybe there's a whole group of creative people where like we actually all have the same currency, and we all like in the photo, video, YouTube space, we have the whatever coin, and like it's transferable between all of this pool of creators. And you can, you could you could have my online workshop if you have 10 of these coins, but you could also go to John's thing. And, I just find it super, super interesting. It's so mutually beneficial, because if they're invested, and then your channel growth means that whatever coins they own or whatever NFTs they own are going to keep increasing in value. That's a great investment for them while they learn as well. So,
yeah. I'm going to spend all day looking up that stuff.
I know, right?
Searching NFTs.
What does fungible mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fungible.
All right.
I need to
getting
understand.
there. Yeah.
It's the future.
Sorry, I don't normally talk that much in episodes, but I'm just like, I'm so interested by I feel like I want to make a video about that specifically soon.
Oh yeah, do it.
And I just want to I'm just very interested in talking to more creatives and seeing what they think about it, because some people are like, I don't want to touch that. That sounds crazy. But I figured knowing you would be at least interested in something like that. So pretty cool.
I'm always an early adopter too of most things.
Yeah.
I love the beta test. I'm in there usually. I'll just
yeah.
Like I'm in there first thing.
Well, Daniel collaborated with someone for his first NFT, and it was the more artistic one, and he created the music track for an animation, and it's currently the bid is currently $8,800. I'm just like, it's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know. But yeah, Logan Paul's selling like millions based on like they're like playing cards, digital playing cards. So yeah, super interesting.
Yeah, he made himself a Pokemon basically, and turned himself into a Pokemon card, and that's what people bought. And he made like $5 million in a couple days.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The
absolutely
future.
crazy.
The future.
Yeah, I need to look up more and at least understand it.
I think what's funny
Yeah.
is maybe like by the time this episode drops, it's like it's not a thing anymore, and we just sound like idiots.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be like NFTs. That was like yesterday.
The future stock
That was
market.
so
Are
a
you
month
kidding me?
ago.
No way.
Yeah.
These guys are idiots. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, maybe to bring things back down
To
to
real life.
a solid level, I could just say the word gear, maybe. Maybe that'll ring people's ears who are listening to this right now, and they'll be like, whoa, wait, what did he say? I love that stuff. But actually, I am curious, John. I feel like a lot of the stuff on YouTube that talks about gear and tech and stuff, almost always you're going to see like Canon and Sony, Canon versus Sony, and all this stuff. But as we touched on in the intro, you're a Fujifilm ambassador, and that's incredible because it feels in a lot of ways that Fuji is doing like some of the coolest stuff in digital cameras, but it's not hyped up as much by people that do the reviews and like do the head-to-head comparisons and stuff like that. What got you connected with Fuji in the first place?
So Fujifilm, actually, so my mentor, Phil Porto, I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know Phil.
Oh, yeah.
If not, definitely check him out. So yeah, I actually used to shoot for Phil, and to give you the whole story again, so I had been shooting weddings for 2 years already, and until workshop, I didn't feel like I was really a wedding photographer. I was just like out there shooting weddings. I'm so grateful that nothing horrible happened at any weddings because I barely knew what I was doing. So 2 years of shooting weddings, literally having no idea what I'm doing. I went to workshop, and also at workshop, I met Phil, and then Phil was like, I'm looking for New York people to shoot for me because he's from there, but he lives in Florida. And I was like, cool. And we met, and it was just like, boom, there it is. He was like, yes, you're on the team. And I was like, yay. And then, so he made me second at a couple of his weddings just to learn his own style and also just teach me more about weddings. And at one of them, he shoots Fuji, and he was like, "Hey, just hold this in your hand." And I was like, and then that's like literally, look, like I touched the Fujifilm camera, and I was like, "There it is." And it was funny too, because even my wife, she always likes to back up like the back end of everything. She always makes everything like solidified. All this room, this was mainly her. And so she was like looking into Fujifilm because we both had no idea. And she was like, yeah, just the company itself, we really I feel like that's you. It feels like you, who you are as a person. And I was just like, yep, sold all my Canon gear immediately and kind of just jumped in there. Because, yeah, Fuji feels good. I think that's the thing about Fujifilm. It has this feeling to it.
I think that's something a lot of people don't consider when they're thinking of gear and in any creative space. It's a lot of times it's just about the analytics. It's just about the specs, all that stuff. But similarly in film photography, when you're dealing with the same, type of film in the back of every single camera, like the user experience is one of the most important things outside of the glass you have on the camera as well. So I really feel that with getting in to film photography as well. I feel there's a strong comparison to that where I love hearing you say like, I got it in my hands. And then you're like, it's that like holy grail moment where you're just like, oh, like something connected. And sometimes that's all it takes, right? With something that is going to motivate you to do something more, or it doesn't have to be these specs that motivate you to do stuff, but rather how it feels and how it makes you work and is an extension of you versus how cool it is or how good it is. Because I mean,
exactly.
Everybody talks about it. It's like, it doesn't matter what camera you get today. Like they're all perfectly fine to get the job done.
They're all great. That's why I always have a hard time with people. What camera should I get? They're really all good at this point. The technology is so good. It was funny. One time I was at a camera shop, and they had a Mamiya, and I wanted to blow it so bad, but I didn't. But I was just in there, and someone came in looking for a film camera, and they were like younger. They're like, "So which one has better quality?" And I was just like, "Wow," because that's kind of where we've gotten to now because of digital photography.
Yeah.
But again, film photography, the stock is what made it look though. So between the stock and the glass, those are probably the two main points. Other than that, the camera is the box. It has a shutter that opens, and that's it. It doesn't do anything else. Maybe it has a meter, so maybe it's better than the other one because the meter's good. That's about it.
Right.
And I feel that way with digital photography now too. When you start looking at it, because again, you know, Fujifilm's mainly crop sensor. Oh, I can't shoot weddings and crops. You know, and you know, I've been doing it for like 4 years, and I'm like, it's okay, it's fine. But again, you have to know your gear. You have to know it. You know, like I know there's certain things I can't do that a full frame camera could. I know my limits of my camera. I know that I can get shots more in focus wide open because it's crop. And so like shooting F2 is fine. Whereas, you know, full frame, a new person gets a camera, they're like, oh, why is everything out of focus? Because you just can't shoot wide open unless you really know your situation, or maybe you want it a little out of focus, or so it's one of those kind of things, like understanding the gear versus just being like, again, you know, like the Sony A1 because 30 frames a second. Okay, if you don't shoot sports, you know, like don't come at me like my camera shoots 30 frames. When do you use that? I just took 5,000 photos of the couple walking in from the procession, and I'll call out 2 of them. You know, why?
I didn't miss a single moment. Well, yeah, but
you've also got all
just
of
done that if you timed it better. Like, what?
Oh, the culling takes forever. Culling takes so long. Well, yeah, you have too many photos. But again, you know, that's cool. It's great. I love seeing the technology too. So Sony A1 gets announced, and I'm hype.
Right.
Am I going to buy it? No, but a 30 frame, full frame that's insanity.
Yeah.
You know, with like the Sony's autofocus on the face is great. So like for me as a photographer, I'm like, wow. But I know realistically, I personally don't need that.
Do you feel the same way about technology? Like a new iPad comes out or a new iPhone comes out? Like, how do you feel about in that realm? Because on the personal side, I feel like so many people see the Apple event and they're like, gotta have that new thing, when they just don't need it, especially if they have debt. It's crippling them to keep buying those things. And it's like, it's not sustainable for their business because like, I can't do this thing now because I need to book this because I bought the Apple Watch. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. You know, I feel the same way. And especially, again, working at Apple, one of my hugest pet peeves I had while I worked there is someone comes in and they're like, give me the best iPad. And it's like, okay, so technically there's not a best.
Yeah.
What are you looking to do with it? Give me the best one. The most expensive, the biggest gigs. And then they like read books on it. You know, like I always had a hard time with that. So it's that same thing. And I just had a conversation with someone in like the YouTube comments where I was talking about the new Fujifilm GFX 100S. And I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to get some, you know, it's like $6,000. So they're like, okay, so are you going to charge more to recoup your losses from buying the gear? And I was like, that's not the way we should be thinking, especially as business owners. Like I can't charge you more because I spent my money. That doesn't even make sense. So it's that same kind of thing. You really have to weigh out your upgrades. Like you have to weigh out, first off, just the, you know, what do they call it? Gas, like the gear acquisition. You have to weigh that out. You got to weigh out how much you do you want it? Because you have to weigh out how beneficial it is. And then you have to weigh out if it makes sense as a purchase. And all of those things together is what makes like okay, I should go ahead and buy this because I think it'll be a worthwhile investment in the long term. I think it's cool.
Preach.
It'll help me in these couple of places. Great. And then again, if your business is really rolling the way it should, you should already had money saved for gear buying anyway. But if you're taking a hit for it, you could sell some gear. And then you should know based on how much money you'll make that it'll be fine because at the end of the year, that's a tax write-off and so on and so forth. So it's like just that thought process of being like, well, if I bought something, time to charge more. No.
Yep. That's, I 1000% agree with all of that. I think it's really important for people to understand that concept because, I mean, I feel like all 3 of us also feel very passionate about the whole idea of paying off debt and feeling that freedom. You clearly already did that last year. You're taking those steps. How does it feel? Like, how does it feel having that stuff gone? Like, what do you feel as a creative now with all that weight lifted?
It's so crazy. Well, even a great example, So the way I got into working for myself, like we literally just left. I quit Square, like just out of the blue. I had no weddings in North Carolina. It was literally the whole situation, and not to make the story too long, but we were living in a 2-family home, and the old people who owned the home downstairs were just like old and mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had kids, so like our daughter's starting to walk. They're like, oh, it's too loud on the floor. She's a baby trying to walk, you know? And they just always, and it got to a point at one point that they were like, you can't use water after 10 p.m. because it's too loud. And we were like, we're leaving. So we literally, I went to work the next day and was like, 2-week notice. And they were like, word? And I was like, yes. Do you have anything lined up? No, I do not. Wow. And we barely found the place we're in now and just left. We had some money saved and we were like, there it goes. We're going to do it. And so like, I can't remember the main part I was talking about, but
debt stuff.
The main point.
Yeah.
What was the main point?
It was, we were talking about paying off the debt. Then you.
Oh yeah. Because of that, because of focusing on paying off debt and stuff, technically I don't have to work as hard. And that's something I actually wanted to make a video on that at some point. This mentality that me and my wife have about how, you know, a lot of people go into things thinking like, oh, I have to make all this money. Like, oh, we can't have kids because it's so expensive. But you really kind of decide where your money kind of leans. So for instance, like if we want to have lots of kids, then I know I can't go on trips all the time. So the money leans towards having the kids. Same thing. We live like way under our means, way under our means. So because of that, even if I didn't want to, I don't have to work as hard. Now I can work hard and then I just have more money. But it's that same kind of thing. Like we are driving in an old 2006 Accord 2-door with 3 kids.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? Like we're saving up and we're obviously a new car is like kind of first priority right now. But it's that kind of thing. Like my car is paid off. It's been paid off. All I have to pay is insurance. That keeps all of my bills low so that if I have a month on YouTube, like last month, where ad revenue is just like way down for no reason, I'm not like, you know, then it's just kind of like, oh, well, the bills are paid. We're comfortable. We're eating.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's always my main goal, you know, like my main goal in the first place, even when I met my wife, and we're weird. Like we're like one of those like power couples, and I'm not trying to name myself, but we were like,
who you are.
She was like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, and I was like, great, I want to provide for a family. That's all I want. And she was like, cool, awesome, let's go, boom. And we just so like that's my main goal. Like if I wasn't a wedding photographer, if I wasn't doing YouTube, as long as I was providing for my family, that's what makes me feel accomplished.
Yeah.
How I do it, I don't care. And I've gone on about that before. I have this theory about finding your kind of your process of what defines success. And when you find the process of success, it doesn't matter what you do. So for me, I like to have an idea, create the thing from that idea, and then see the end goal. If I have those, no matter what I'm doing, I'm fine with it, which is why I had a hard time at Squarespace. Nothing against Squarespace, but it was just normal, very corporate. So sometimes if I had an idea, then I had to go through all this red tape and it takes time. You got to test it and I couldn't. It didn't work for that progress that I like to have. Yeah, that's the long answer.
The best. It's like that's my favorite topic in business. It's the thesis of this podcast and our philosophy always is that long-term view is what can be sustainable for you. It gives you the freedom to pretty much pursue whatever the heck you want. You get rid of the debt, you lower the spending, and the world is yours. And we just, Mike and I started a new finance channel, and we just last month did Frugal February, where we just spent as little as we could. And it ended up being one of the most profitable months of the history of my business. And so seeing that gap of like, this is the most I've ever made and the least I've spent in the past 3 years. And it basically was just like, okay, well, there's pretty much the down payment on our house. Like that's insane. Like And that's not possible if like we're carrying a ton of credit card debt and the student debt and the car note and all this stuff. That gap narrows so much more. And so obviously, like, I can assume that in the years to come, you probably will want to upgrade the Accord, when it feels more comfortable to get, a minivan or whatever, the next car. But I know like your mentality is like, you're not going to do that until you feel like that gap is wide enough to feel comfortable to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's epic, man.
This is an understatement, but John, you're just so freaking wholesome, man.
Yes.
This is so much fun to just talk with you
Yell
about
up.
all of this stuff. And I really hope everyone listening and watching feels the same way, because this is just so encouraging to hear all of this talked about in a really humble and down-to-earth way. And you've been so objectively successful, and you could have let all of it go to your head, and you could have started to live above your means and like all of these things. And you've just kept it so grounded the entire time. And that's just so impressive. I feel like that should be recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, we try our best actually to go back into this frugalness. Even and again, like I said, my wife is the backbone. So after we saw in 2019 that I was able to make a little bit of money. So this YouTube space is actually our master bedroom. So like, that's how serious we are about stuff too.
Wow.
Where I was like, I need a space. And she was like, take the master. And I was like,
Wow.
Okay. So like, I have the biggest space.
Wow.
Just for YouTube. So I can shoot in multiple angles. So again, it's, having a teammate to help you out too, I think is a huge part of also staying frugal, because it's hard. And, we also love to spend money. So, get us on the right page, and we're both just like, she was like, I want to buy this thing that's mad expensive. And I was like, that thing looks cool.
Yeah.
But yes, we try our best to just, live in the here and now and be grateful for what we have, work for what we want, and keep the spending as low as possible so that you have the money to be able to get things that you want. And you can still, I don't like the misconception that people think that like, if you are trying to save money or pay off debt, that you can't do anything fun. And that's not the case. Cause even when we started doing it, we kind of took the Dave Ramsey approach. But because I like to roll with the punches, I'm not a fan of like, let me write every single dollar into the debt only.
Agreed.
So the trade-off is, yes, it takes us longer to pay off the debt, but we have comforts. Like if I want to buy a video game, obviously there's a budget for that and it's lower. Not like I'm just buying every game that comes out. I have to wait and I have to choose like, okay, this is the one I really want, but I have that. Or like we'll have a couple of like envelopes or goals where we'll let them roll over for a while so that if for some reason we want to go party, we'll just wait 3 months and now you got your party money. Yeah. Rather than being like every dollar has to go to the debt. It's too strict.
For sure. Yeah, as long as that mentality is there and you keep chipping away at it consistently and with intention, that's what will get you there. Yeah.
This is maybe the most important question we're going to ask today, but what consoles are you playing on, and what are your favorite games?
So unfortunately, going back to the you can't have everything on the budget, I actually chose to stop playing on consoles. I sold all my consoles. Well, the main console. I do most of my stuff on PC now. But I do, like I was showing you all earlier, I have a PlayStation 1 and a GameCube. What I'm playing right now, so I always have my handy dandy Switch near and dear to me at all times. Always. Yeah.
You have to watch the video version of this, guys. The amount of animation John has with how passionate he is about stuff. You got to see his facial expressions.
So what am I on PC right now? I've been playing The Division 2. That's like my go-to. I love Tom Clancy games. And Horizon Zero Dawn. Which
nice. Okay.
My sons absolutely love because it's like robot dinosaurs. Then on the Switch, Bravely Default 2 just came out. I love anything Square Enix, anything Final Fantasy, and also Animal Crossing. And the funny thing about Animal Crossing, we taught our daughter to read, and she's like 6, and she's reading like whole chapter books at this point. We taught her to read using Animal Crossing because the catch was you can play, but because the game has a lot of dialogue, you have to read all of it. And because she wanted to so badly, she learned to read real quick.
That's awesome.
So now it's like, can I play Animal Crossing? You're like, great. She's just reading the whole. I'm like, wow, okay.
That's maybe the best use of a video game I've ever heard. Like, teach your daughter how to read. Animal Crossing. There we go. Best of both worlds.
Yep, exactly. They get to
That's
play some,
amazing.
and it's like Animal Crossing is like probably the best kid game ever known on the face of the. Like, there's nothing to do in it really. There's no real goal. There's goals, but there's no like. It's like you go collect apples and fish.
Yeah.
Talk to the
It was a
animals.
completely different language to me.
It's
I have
awesome.
no idea what you guys are talking about. Like, what's a console?
What's
What? Video games? But yeah, that's what I'm playing now.
Cool.
Those are my
Love
go-tos
it.
at the moment for the
cool.
little time I have.
Okay, but
We don't talk video games on this
yeah,
podcast.
this is a first.
often, but
Often.
I love them very much. So it's fun to
we don't talk about
chat
this
about
often.
it
We don't talk about
Yeah,
this ever.
I could go on forever.
ever.
I actually have been itching for the longest time to make a gaming channel. That's how much I'm
Oh
into
my
games.
God.
That's for real. That's
Dude,
a,
I'd
that's
watch
a goal,
you stream on
Steven.
Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a market for it.
Oh, I actually, not to go on about games too. I don't know if
No,
you've heard about the
please.
game Stardew Valley. It's like a farming game, but I recently got the board game that they made.
There's a board game version?
It's a board game. It's cool. I was playing it with my daughter the other day. It's really cool. It's cool.
I can relate to that
one.
one.
I made a board game.
That is
I taught
awesome.
my 6-year-old Monopoly the other day, and he bankrupted
Yeah.
me, and I couldn't have been any more proud. It was amazing. Yeah.
You're like, yes, take my money.
business.
You get it. You get it.
I'm like planting seeds. I'm like, save your money. Don't spend it on that property yet. Yeah. It was awesome.
Ooh, that's my next. Oh, I want to. Growing up, I was never like the math. I hate math. And actually, funny enough, going to a music school, I thought I was running away from math. I found out the hard way
No.
that music is
It
math.
is math.
Actually, it was funny. So I,
it is.
so I majored in music synthesis, right? So that's like creating sound.
Mhm.
So first off, you have to learn things like acoustics, which is literally just physics. And I was like, ah. And then I was watching some documentary, and they were like, the person who made the first 12-note scale was Pythagoras. And I was like, Pythagoras? You mean like the Pythagorean theorem? And I was like,
Screw. You're like,
I was just
Yeah.
like, music is
Flips
math. No. Isn't that math dude? Why is he doing music? No. But yeah, now, especially with money, I'm like, math, let's go.
Yeah.
So that's, while I teach my kid, that's my plan, is to be like, I'm going to do an allowance, but it has to be kind of like Animal Crossing. Like, you need to know how to add. And then once we get to multiplication, we'll start talking about interest. And then we'll start doing percentages.
Yep.
And just like make it applicable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to leave you with one last question, and it's just very simply like, what do you see the next 5 to 10 years looking like? Do you see yourself still doing YouTube? Do you have, so we sort of touched on it a little bit, but do you still feel kind of that mentality of rolling with the punches? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, 5 years, I'll be
Yeah, how
pretty
old
much
are
be
you?
40 years old.
Man,
I can't believe
you
it.
look like you're 27.
Yeah. What?
I aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
I'll be young forever. Yeah, I'm 36 now. I just turned 36. So yeah, 5 years I'll be 40, which is just, I can't, like when you're young, you're like, yeah, I'll be young forever. And then you start getting old, you're like, wow. But yeah,
Oh, my knee
I do.
hurts. Huh.
Oh my God, my
Yeah.
knees.
What is that?
Yeah.
You get done with the wedding, you're like, my back went.
Yep.
Ow. Definitely YouTube. I definitely will probably be on YouTube. That whole content creation is something, again, that I've been off and on for years.
Yeah.
Even like with the old channel, I was just literally making content because it was never like, this will be great, I could make money, or like, wow.
Right.
It was just like, I'm making
Just what you
videos, I
love.
guess. Yeah. Also, the whole early adopter thing, I don't know. It was, YouTube looked cool, so I was doing whatever. But I'll definitely be doing YouTube, if anything. Weddings are, questionable, and it's mainly just because of like the timing and physicality of it. If anything, I'll keep slowly taking less and less and getting more like intimate with the couples. But definitely YouTube. I'm hoping I've had a dream for a long time of not actually becoming a fitness model, but I've been really into fitness.
Yeah,
And at
dude.
one point I got really into shape, and then I like let it lapse when I started working at Squarespace and having like a family and stuff. But I just started again. I'm in my 3rd week now, and I can like feel it happening. I'm like weighing my food and stuff. I'm like itching. I'm like, oh, here it is. It's coming. It came back. Because when I got really in shape, I worked out for like a full year, like every week, at least 5 days a week. Like I was a full blown gym rat. So that's kind of the current 5 years, is hopefully being super in shape, still doing YouTube, and a little sprinkling of weddings.
And developing our NFT currency together. Okay, cool.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's the end of the episode, guys.
just email me about the NFTs.
Epic, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, John. This was such a fun conversation. One of the most insightful ones, honestly, we've had so far. Just like the full breadth of the diversity of your income and like how it's sustainable over time. I think so many people are going to get so much out of it. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
That's awesome. Thank you for having me.
Where
Glad
can-
we got to link up more often? I got to come up to Chicago.
Seriously.
Actually, I just got an inquiry for a Chicago wedding, but I'm not free. But at some point, because I've only been there once
You're more than
for
welcome.
a wedding. Yeah, and it was awesome. So
Come to the studio, sleep in our new guest room because we just bought a house. Oh, snap.
we can party too. I
What's
can break
up?
dance. Oh, I don't know if I can anymore. I'm getting old.
After like
If you got wood floors, I'm spinning on them.
2 more months of working out, you'll be there. Cool, man. Where can people find you online, John?
Everywhere online, I'm pretty much JBiv Photography. That's JBIV Photography. That's my website, Instagram, YouTube, so on and so forth.
If you all happen to watch this episode on YouTube, please do us a quick favor and like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite streaming service is, please leave us a review as well. It really helps push the show out to more and more people that could benefit from it. And my goodness, I'm sure you're going to benefit from this conversation with John. Seriously, man, thank you so much.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Later, JB.